What's up, everybody? Welcome back to All Smith. Today's conversation is about legacy. I've got a very special guest who's been a competitor at the CrossFit Games. But if you think this conversation is about muscle ups and metcons, you're definitely missing the fucking point. His story is about evolution, from athlete to educator, from competitor to mentor, from chasing podiums to truly shaping humans. He's become one of the most respected teachers of coaches in the fitness world. He's a man who understands that real leadership is not just about volume. It's about clarity. It's about calm. It's about competence under pressure. Through his work, he continues to influence thousands by teaching fundamentals that hold when life gets chaotic. I'm excited to unpack the story of Pat Barber. Welcome to the show, man.
Stoked to be here, man. Appreciate you.
Something I was thinking about just kind of in my drive over here today when I was self-reflecting on you, watching your journey of being an amazing husband, bringing so many incredible children into the world. It's really about this sacred responsibility about shaping the next generation. Like Kobe said that before he passed away. He's like, hey, all these things that I'm doing are great, but it's really about how we impact the next generation of athletes and humans. Is that something you think about at all now that you're slightly in a different chapter of life?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's you have to. I have 4 sons, right? 13 down to 3. And when you become a father, I think you have a couple options, but you can either choose to fight that process or you can embrace that process, because there's a giving up of self that is necessary for, being a father that is capable. And I think all men wrestle with that identity, but when you give into that process and say, hey, I'm here for this next generation, that consumes your thoughts at all times. And I think that, 4 kids deep brings a lot of clarity to the reality that it's not about shaping the generation via making them do things or teaching them things or whatever it may be. It's actually about being a better man yourself. And so I think that that's what the interesting on the other side of it. I mean, I'm in it still, but I'm 13 years deep in it and multiple steps in it. It's just about, it's not about doing anything in particular to them. It's about being the best version of yourself as that example. And of course there's guidance and there's teaching, there's blah, 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 but it's like, it's far more self growth and not kind of like surface level. I'm going to post it on Instagram self growth, but like actual, are you a kind person? Actual, like, do you have good relationships? Do you have control and regulation over your emotions? Like, it's very non-performative. It's very simple, but it's also like the deepest, hardest work you do. But that is absolutely the legacy that you want to, like, I mean, I don't exactly know what Kobe was referencing, but it's like our responsibility is to be the best versions of ourselves so that the next generation sees what a man should be. That's my perspective on it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I learned that lesson hard, man. It was losing both my parents to terminal cancer. And my mom's in the ICU. And I'd been in Invictus for like 10 years at the time, man. And she just looks at me with the most real eyes. It was like 4 days before she passed away. And she's like, Bryce, you've got this song inside. Like, go fucking sing it. And I was like, whoa, my mom doesn't cuss. Like, she wanted me to have like the job, have some health insurance and like, play within the boundaries. And then all of a sudden she like said this thing in the midst of extreme turmoil. And at that moment, Pat, I didn't really know how to like navigate that. And so I 3 days later just created the LLC and then like jumped in with everything I had, which wasn't anything at the time. But more importantly, what comes to mind is at that time I ended up being like, you know what? I don't know how to grieve the loss of both parents to cancer. I hired a healer and he was like, bro, you're always training when life gets hard. You're going on hikes. You're connecting with people. You're going to coach more. You're trying to grow apparel. You're doing more podcasts. He's like, you're a human doer. You're not a human being. Like, you don't actually know how to be with yourself. And then when
Sure.
you are by yourself, you're throwing in the earbuds, you're listening to podcasts or songs or all these things of distraction. He's like, you actually have to go inward. So that way you have the capacity to create the container to then go outward and allow people to be safe within your energy. And I was like, whoa, like that's a painful journey to go through. But then when you actually accept total and full responsibility for that, it aligns with what you just said. Like now it's like, if you want to point and blame at everybody else, you've got these three fingers that are still pointing at you, right? It's pretty cliche, but at the end of the day, you're like, whoa, like I actually need to fix this and upgrade this operating system before doing all that. And it sounds to me that you went through a similar journey.
For sure. I think all men do. I think what's interesting to note and interesting to step back and look at, though, is that journey is going to look different. Like yours looked different. Yours was about doing less. It was about sitting with emotion. It was about actually feeling, probably, rather than shirking the things you were going through or looking for a distraction. And most people find distraction in alcohol, women, money. Like they'll find those distractions. You found it through fitness and health, which actually ended up serving you in the long run. But it's still a distraction. It's something that if you're not putting in check, it it runs you and you don't actually process the thing. But some other people, the journey is actually about action. They're so internal that it's actually they need to do. They need to stop thinking. They need to stop planning. They need to stop researching and playing it safe and like doing these things. They need to go out and work out and go for a hike and experience nature and touch these things. Like it's actually external. So what's fascinating to me is looking at the journeys that we've gone on, like myself and yourself, and being like, that's my journey. And I can recognize a man who that journey would be appropriate for. But there's also a big handful of men and women as well, whose journey is going to be the flip side. It's going to be learning how to, not be so inside, but actually be serving. And like, it's fascinating. And I think where I get a little, something that draws me is like, you hired a healer, right? And I think let's take healers, for instance. There's a lot of like very spiritually awakened individuals who are stunted as human beings because all they're doing is seeking and never actually they're never actually doing. Like these people who are like, yeah, I do ayahuasca like 3 times a week. And you're like, I'm trying to like really touch the ether. And I'm like, you're a drug addict. Like you're not actually doing the work. You're continually like escaping, but it's a different kind of escape than say a man who just puts his head down and does work. And it's just knowing that there's all these different sides and there's no one right way and we're all on different paths is a good one. But I think the key overall overarching thing is that this introspection, right? This ability to step back and be like, okay, where am I at? Where am I actually at? Do I have the capacity to express all of human emotions? Do I have the ability to actually take action and do work? Do I have the ability to think clearly and speak clearly? What are my relationships like? You had your F's, your faith, family, fitness, finance one. Like, do I have these things that would speak to a quality life to some degree under control, and not even under control, but like even in examination? It's a fascinating. I find it very interesting to look at because we're all going, like, I know what I've gone through. And then I try to apply that to other people. Then I go, oh my God, you're in such a different place due to your upbringing, due to your whatever. Like you're not where I was, but I think there's some similarities. It's fascinating for me, and that's the space that I find myself in a lot these days.
Man, Pat, since we last spoke, your operating system is like 10x. It's really cool to feel the dial and how much you're so articulate now, but also just the observation, right? Like, because you're right. Most people will chat GPT the thing, they'll Google the thing, they'll research the thing, but they won't actually do the thing. Doing the thing, you're going to learn all the things that you need to do to upgrade in multiple arenas of the human experience, but it's a lot more painful. You might go the wrong
Sure.
way. You might face rejection. You might do this. You might do that. But feeling those things is actually really important. But what I love
Yeah.
about what you said is, do you know Logan Galbrick, the founder of
Yep.
Deuce Gym? Awesome dude.
Do see.
Yeah, he's an amazing human. I've connected with him a few times, and he talks about just the different perceptual positions. Like I see you, you see me, and then it's like me seeing myself through your eyes. We can then play as if like there's a bird's eye view up there, and then we can both pretend like some third party or viewership is watching both of us.
Sure.
And what's cool about the way he describes that is exactly what you just said. You're not marinating yourself through Pat Barber's eyes. You're like, hey, this is my experience. There might be a couple little nuggets that might serve you in the season or this chapter, but I also understand that you're on your own journey. Let's meet you there. And that's what I think is really the meat and potatoes of a lot of this conversation today, is that you have the lenses to understand that like your experience isn't everything. And I think that's why many athletes are shitty coaches, because they only have their experience. But like you took your experience and you like unpacked it and played with it and like spread it out a little bit to then create this painting where it's like, hey, I've got a couple dabs of paint here and I got a paintbrush, but the paintbrush is actually yours. And I want to be an observer and a supporter in what you got going on. The selflessness of that is just so cool to me, not only as a coach, but as a husband and a father. Will you kind of unpack a little bit and help us understand like how your brain got to that?
Yeah, dude. Good framework. Good questions. I had to be proven wrong a lot. And my initial operating system is that everything I do is right. Right. And I think that very few people, well, and I can't say that. I think there's a lot of people who operate and they do things because they think they're right. Very few people are like, this is wrong, I'm going to do it. You know, like they go, I'm doing this because it's right.
Supplements are a great example, right? Like, hey, supplements are a great example. Hey, I saw the research. I'm going to take this thing. It's going to work.
Yeah.
So it's a small example for people.
Yeah, supplements are a good example. I think any argument you get in with your spouse, you're both arguing from a position of thinking that you're right. Not one of you is not being like, I'm wrong, let me fight this point. You're both being like, I'm right. And I think, you know, to take it to the spouse example, that was a big confronting realization that the world works better often if you don't force your correct opinion on the world.
You're seeking for what's right rather than trying to be right.
Yeah. Yes. And which requires curiosity. And, you know, there's been, and the journey has been a very long one for me. And I'm by nature argumentative. I'm by nature confrontational. Like I don't have any problem with you having a problem with me. Like that's not my issue. That's your issue. So like as a basic framework, I was combative. Like that's my underlying operating system, like I was saying. And, you know, this would serve me very well in terms of confidence. It would serve me very well in terms of, you know, making a stake in something and really working through things. Cause I would always be like, what's the right answer here? How can I figure this out? How can I, you know, manipulate the situation, so to speak, to get what I want, because what I want is right. And luckily I'm not like a bad person. I'm like not trying to hurt other people. I was trying to coach people, or I was trying to,
shift behavior,
or get a good relationship. But there's, you know, in essence, there's a manipulation there. And when I was a coach, I became a coach and I was a good athlete. I wasn't set on the like I needed to be right with the words I was saying. I was set, I needed to get the outcome that I wanted, right? So I was very outcome based, because that's CrossFit, is like you're not focused on the thing, you're focused on the outcome. And whatever thing gets you the outcome, you're going to do, and you're going to constantly be examining that. That's like the foundation of the scientific method. That's the foundation of how Greg does stuff. It's like, are we getting the outcome that we want? If not, examine the thing that we're doing and keep changing it till we get the outcome, and then try to replicate that thing. Anyway, that's what I was doing in fitness, but I was pretty effective. And I was effective as me, like as a big, loud, over the top. You're going to pay attention to me regardless. I'm going to make fun. If you don't like making fun, then you can like suck it. You're still getting the good thing and blah, blah, blah. And I would hear these, you know, as I grew, I would start to change because I would, initially I didn't care what other people thought. Like I just like, I'm going to give you what you need. It doesn't matter. And midway through that, I had my son, my first son, and that caused me to look a lot at who I was, because I had to start letting go of my own identity. All these things that I thought were important for me to do, like have my special time during the day and make sure I train this much and make sure I get this kind of food and this kind of sleep and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, that none of that matters. You're an idiot. Shut up. And there are people who need to get those things. And if you're not taking care of yourself, get those things. But I wasn't that guy. Remember, our journeys are different. My journey was I was always taking care of myself. I was a very selfish man. And I needed to be taught that you don't need to be selfish. You're okay. Be selfless. So in this process, my wife and I would get into fights. Not fights, but like bicker. She's a very strong woman and she's very, very determined and very, very stubborn. I also am stubborn and determined. So we would bicker, and it wasn't to a personal level of like we're attacking each other, but we would never relent on points, and it would make other people uncomfortable. Never made us uncomfortable, but we would just like peck, 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 peck. And eventually when we were so sleep deprived and so over the top, like just destroyed by this first son, like we got into some of these arguments about dumb stuff that just get built out of proportion, like 3-4 hour long bickering sessions. And one day towards the end of one of those, I was like, this isn't worth it. Like, even if I'm right, who cares? Like, this is stupid.
Yep.
And I said, you know what? I'm sorry. Like, you know what? I'm wrong. Like I'm genuinely wrong. This doesn't matter. I'm sorry. Like, let me let go. And when I let go, she immediately backed down. Same thing. And I was like, what? Like, it was that easy to avoid this 3-hour back and forth that didn't matter about this. And all of a sudden my eyes were open to like, there's other correct ways of doing things. Right. And and if I back down and I'm not as forceful, I can actually make change better. Like I can have a conversation and see the other side a bit better. And at the same time, I was reading this silly fantasy novel, and one of the authors in it, or one of the characters in it, said, you need to believe extremely strongly in what you do, but not so strongly that you can't see past it to a greater truth. And so it spoke to being very confident, but then also being like, but you got to have room. You got to have wiggle room. Like, it's got to be there. And then to double down on that process, or to triple down, I was doing coaching development full time for NorCal. And I knew that how I coached worked. So that's how I tried to make coaches: big, loud, controlling, like do the whole thing, be bigger, blah, blah. And I brought on this guy. He sent me, and I've told this story a few times, but it was foundational for me. He sent me his resume, and this guy had this like just pages long resume of amazing seminars and certifications. And he would spend like 10 grand a year on his own education, just on his own dime, because that's how he believed he should continue to develop it. He's this Finnish dude. His name was Artu. I'm not changing his name because he's a badass and he's still my friend. And he's like, I want to try for a position at NorCal. So I brought him over and I was like, okay, here's my, noon class. It's 25 people. Here's the session. Coach it. He's like, okay. So he goes out and he's a monotone Finnish dude. Hello, my name is Artu, and and he just like starts into this class, and it's monotone, and I'm like, okay, be louder, be more engaging, be bigger, right? And like good cues, good good mechanics of the class, moved everybody around, like controlled everything, connected with people, but I'm just like, yeah, louder, bigger, like be bigger. So I gave him the next, I was like, hey, next class, be bigger, be over the top, be louder, like control the group. And he's like, okay, starts the next class. Okay, everybody, here, I'm R2. Like, same exact class. Like, no emotional change, no volume change, no dynamic change. And I was like, be louder, bigger. But everything else was great, right? So I hired him, and we hired him, and he starts working at our gym, and he worked at one of the other facilities. But I left him off like, hey, you need to be bigger, you need to be louder, you need to be more engaging. because I knew that worked. And he goes and he coaches at the gym for like a month and a half. And I finally am going to review him again. And we had like 80 coaches in the Bay Area. So I was not watching every coach every day. And I was in charge of coaching development. So I go over to the bigger gym, finally get a chance to review him. This gym is like a 20,000 square foot gym, giant open box, chaos everywhere, multiple classes at a time, like beautiful space. And he's running a 30-person class. And it's just chaos, right? And like around the gym. The class though, 3, 2, 1, go, it starts. He starts off, hello, everybody, guys, like R2, come on in, blah, blah, blah. Monotone, exact same volume, exact same everything, this huge space. And I'm like, he's got to be bigger. He's got to be, more engaged. And I look up and I see 30 people hanging on his every word, like every single word. And every single one of them, he didn't need to be louder. He didn't need to be more engaging. Every single one of them loved what he was saying to them. He made each one of them feel like a specific, like special person. He gave each one of them amazing cues, and the class ran flawlessly in this setting. And I was like, I'm the idiot. Like I'm the one who's trying to make him do something that I knew worked for me, but is actually not necessary if you have these other traits and you make it work in these other ways. And that was just eye-opening for me of like, oh my gosh, like it's not about this one way. This one way does work, but that's not who he is. So why should he be like that? Oh my gosh, I got to look for other ways to make it work. And that coupled with the thing with my wife, coupled with, just the letting go of identity was just like, oh, I need to be more kind of open-minded with the world. Even if I think I'm right and I know I'm right and what I'm doing is working, I need to be softer in a lot of ways. And you could actually, from then on, it's been a process, and it's not like it flips overnight. It's like, this is 15 years ago,
Yeah. You're still, you still wrestle with it a little bit. But what I'm hearing is,
of course,
you had a real life experience with what Ted Lasso says, be more curious than judgmental. You were trying 100%. To fit a square peg in a round hole, and you realize like, whoa, there's different ways to skin a cat. I'm going to surrender because at the end of the day, going back to your original comment in Greg Glassman's teachings, the goal is to get to the outcome. If you've got 30 people that are engaged, 30 people that are actively getting an amazing experience, they're consistently coming back, they're supporting themselves, they're supporting their friends, which is then going to have a ripple effect into their families, into their community and everything else. You're like, homeboy is doing the job. That's pretty freaking cool. And I think it's funny. I really appreciate you sharing the vulnerability and intimacy between you and your wife early on, because my wife and I got married after 3 months. And I remember she had asked me after 2 weeks to go visit her family out in Florida. This is, a year and change ago. And I remember I just said yes without I didn't look at my schedule, didn't look at anything. I was just like, yes. And I'm walking her parents' dogs, and her dad looks at me and he goes, why do you think you guys are meant to be? And Pat, I remember I said, she fights fair. She's not trying to be right. She's in pursuit of what's right. And so we can navigate the messy middle in a very respectful way that, it's still challenging, but we're not name calling or going over the top. It's like, well, I'm seeing this and you're seeing this. And it just led me to that famous mindset of unexplained expectations are premeditated resentments. And if you take that quote into business, into relationships, into self, right? Like, what really makes a man? When your words and your actions align. You're only as good as your word. And there's something really special and really valuable about that. And this morning was a perfect example. My wife's on her 17th night in a row working. And she comes home and, we've got these 2 beautiful, amazing dogs, and we give them the farmer's dog. And it arrived last night, and I was tired, man. I was doing some stuff in the garage. I didn't feel like putting it in the freezer. I knew that it was going to be fine because it had all the freezer bags in it. She comes in full of piss and vinegar in the morning. Why didn't you put the dog food away? And I'm like, baby, really? That's how we're going to start the day? So we start with that conversation. And eventually I pop up. I'm making us both a cup of coffee. And I'm like, baby, you're right. I should have put the dog food away. But guess what? That's not what this is really about. This is really about you're fatigued, you're cold, it's raining in San Diego. You miss being able to spend time, within the container of our home and being able to connect. And that one little thing kind of was a little trigger. It irked you a little bit. I was like, but you coming into the bedroom first thing in the morning, it's unacceptable. We're not going to behave that way. I take ownership and responsibility for not putting it away, but we're going to reset the energy of the day. And she was like, okay, I'm sorry. Do you forgive me? I was like, yeah, I'm just going to need a second. And then we later chop it up and have this great conversation. She's like, you're right. Like, let's have a cool conversation about this. And everything is smooth, super cool now because we were just simply looking at it from two different lenses. And if you take that analogy into coaching, you take it into business relationships, you take it with your spouse, you take it with self, you take it with nature. Now you have like actual collaboration. And that's something we've been talking about a lot, Pat, with different like entrepreneurs and high performers that hop on the show. Those at the top aren't competing so much. They're collaborating.
Right. Sure.
What comes to mind when you think about collaboration over competition and where you're at now in your life coming from that competitive background?
What comes to mind with collaboration and competition? I have never, not never, but I don't see, I've always been trusting of people, and it's burned me a lot. Like, I put myself out there. But I've never really felt propriety over information or business or anything really. And maybe that's a journey that I have to go on because I haven't, like, if you, I don't know. Like, I actually don't know if I have a coherent answer in this. I can speak to what is going on right now in my head, but I am successful in 99% of the areas that you would ever deem a man successful, and even more successful than most men who pretend that they're successful, because I'm okay with who I am in a very deep way. And I'm very proud of who I am. I have plenty of work to do, but I'm very proud of who I am, and not in an arrogant way, just in a real way. Like, I'm doing good in all of the metrics. My relationship to my wife that I've been with for 14 years is amazing. Like, there's always struggles, but it's amazing. How I can speak and think about my sons and who they are as people, unbelievable. I have 5 acres in the mountains of Santa Cruz. I wake up every morning at 4:30 and go have a sauna and have an hour and a half to watch my kids wake. We homeschool. This is my home office. I work from, like, there's nothing that I am wanting for now, even emotionally. And I'm just settled, and I want more men to have this, which is why I have the Fathers Guild. But I haven't succeeded financially in a way that I can just say yes to life, just be okay. Just like, hey, let's go travel, and we go do it. It's always kind of like nail biting. And I've had a string of jobs where high potential, and then all of a sudden funding falls through and I lose my job or whatever it is. And it's just been over and over again. I've struggled in the arena of finance, and it's never been important to me. And it's never been something that I've prioritized because I think it's less meaningful than all the other areas. And I'm going to stick to that and actually believe that. I do believe that I'm good, but financially, I'm not as healthy as I need to be. So where I'm at in my life is to dig into finances. And I think when it comes to finances, there needs, like, from what I look at in the financial world, the people who succeed are not particularly intelligent. They are not particularly well-meaning or collaborative. The people who succeed are brutal. And I don't think all of them are like that, but I think the majority of a lot of the surface levels of success financially that you see is about being just competitive and relentless in a way where you're like, no, it's me versus you, and I'm going to do it better. And I don't have that drive. I don't have that drive when it comes to finances. I have that drive when it comes to sport, but not because I want to take you down, but because I want to see what's possible for me. Mm-hmm. So I'm still trying to learn how to apply that emotion to myself when it comes to my financial life. I want to see what's possible when it comes for me. And that's the area of life that I'm in right now. So I don't know if I have a succinct thought on that, other than it's an area that I am looking to continue to grow in. And it's funny that you ask, because it's like the one area of my life that I'm like, I have a lot of work to do here. And that's what I'm like, that's what I'm deep in at the moment. Like I don't think, and I this might sound arrogant, I don't think many men comprehend how good I have it when it comes to my emotional, my mental, my physical, like the things that I have are hard to express and are not something that you can like show people. It's only something that I can feel. But
Totally.
I have work to do when it comes to my competitive, collaborative,
Financial fitness.
financial life.
Totally.
Yeah.
You and I are in a similar spot, man. I mean, I look at it, we have a sauna cold plunge in the backyard, and it's a game changer, man. As far as what I thought it was going to be, which is just like this physiological thing that's going to like help me stay healthy and fit, it's turned into my social hour and ability to connect with amazing people. When we talk to like podcast sponsors or, you know, different supporters of our journey, like we take the meetings in there. We take walking meetings. We do all those things. I also think it's really interesting when you look at financial fitness. I agree with you. Like it is brutal, but you and I are kind of on the side of preventative medicine. And right now, what monetizes is reactive medicine. I mean, we're seeing everything with the Epstein files and everything with COVID and all these controversial political things. And what we're really understanding is like, whoa, big pharma's got a lot going on there. And when you think about what the education system is around health and fitness and wellness, it's around, yes, we acknowledge that this reactive medicine needs to exist in the event of an emergency or a car accident or a cancer or a difficult diagnosis. We're not downplaying that by any means, but it's like, hey, if we make these really proactive lifestyle changes, habit choices, build community, be consistent with nutrient density, and not surrender to the toxicity of what's being put in our food, in our environment, in our communities, it's like we actually might be able to mitigate some of the reliance on reactive medicine later. And the challenge right now is that's like a salmon swimming upstream, man. Like it's an uphill battle. It's really challenging. And it doesn't provide as much security as far as financials, because you're like, okay, well, prove it to me. What's going to be the metrics in this many years if we do this thing? And we're getting people to do hard shit consistently. That's mindset. That's journaling. That's having the hard conversations. However, I'm still optimistic that it's the long play. That if we continue to keep doing the next right thing, it's going to impact children. It's going to impact community. It's going to impact generations. People are going to feel better. They're going to look better. They're going to perform better. And then it's going to create buy-in with blood health biomarkers, with depreciation of symptoms. And then before you know it, we're going to have a world where people have that knowledge and that education, and it's starting to be like normalcy, very similar to how we saw the upgrades with the food pyramid recently.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't think anything's particularly complicated, right? When it comes down to all of the things that you're saying. Eat real food and move your body and do that consistently, and you're going to be head and shoulders above the vast majority of people. I think where we get lost is there's a lot of infighting amongst, like for business, amongst the health and fitness space. I also think there's a misclassification of what fitness is. I think that that's one of the biggest pillars that CrossFit has that most of the rest of the industry doesn't have. Like even stuff that's valuable, like let's take even some of this functional movement stuff that's come around. it's 99% wanker and doesn't move the needle for anyone. And I say that because it's great to do if you're an athlete. And if you're looking to be protective of certain components of your joints and rotational force and all this stuff, it's great, you know. But if we're looking for the average human being to get the bang for their buck and their time spent in the gym, if they're not doing 3 Metcons a week, you're missing the point, man. Like no rotational twist thing is going to do jack diddly for you. It's just like, if you want to do it, that's fine. But like, it's just, I don't know. Like I said, this is almost an example of infighting. I'm bad mouthing something that carries value, but at the same time, it's just more of the context of it. And because I'm talking to the person who understands, you know.
But you're also speaking truth, and truth might be, like you said previously, a little confrontational. But I think you're spot on in the sense of like, you can get lost in the sauce and talk about exercise selection and, you know, energy systems and rotation and all the fancy fitness that we see at the F45s and all these places. And like, yes, it's great that they're getting people to move. It's great that it's affordable. It's great that it's convenient, located at the bottom of their apartment so they can get there. Sure. Convenience creates compliance. The program that works is the one that you do ish. But It's like, I think you need to hinge, you need to squat, you need to push, you need to pull, you need to carry some things. And you need to integrate some monostructural movement, burpees, running, double unders, different C2 machines. But more importantly, man, like, you got to touch a little intensity.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And I think that right there is a great recipe to enhance the human experience if you're willing to be an active participant.
And I think that that's where we struggle, right? Is getting people to be an active participant, because I think that that's where the messaging is really off. Because right now the messaging in fitness is look good, feel good, which is bullshit. There are many people who look good and feel terrible. They have no emotional regulation. They have no capacity to love themselves. They have no anything other than this vain, self-absorbed, look in the mirror, do stuff. I hate this industry. I hate the entire physique industry. It is worthless and hurting everyone. It hurts way more people than it helps. And the idea that we perpetuate, even within the CrossFit space, this massive body transformations purely based off of physique is wild to me. But I understand it. We are physical creatures. We are visual creatures. We look at stuff and go, I need to compare myself to that. And that's what people seek, is sexiness and physique. And that's why they train. That's why they do stuff. It is so hollow. You don't get to the end of that and you go, okay, I'm here. You get to the end of that, and unless you've fixed what's going on inside and your perception of self, you just keep going. And it becomes what you were talking about, similar to your relationship to working out, where it was like, competition is who I am. This is where I go. This is what I do. And you're not solving the underlying problems. So is it valuable to be leaner? Sure, because you live longer and you do these other things, but people are seeing it as a way to attract a mate. And they think that that's going to solve their stuff. And you're like, yes and no. I don't know. Like, I think the entire narrative around what fitness currently is just, it's messed up. It's like, even within our space. And I think more people do damage because of that. And people just fall off because, like, they come and they start something and they don't eat and they say, this program is going to give me this and I need to take this supplement to get abs. And it's like, you're focusing on the wrong problem. Like, you need to focus on living longer and living a higher quality. And if we do that, let the form follow that function, you know, like,
you're spot on,
chase
dude.
the function.
And that's a hard conversation because most people have the 30 seconds or less where they're like, oh, I saw this person, they look good, I want to follow their program. Or, you know, they have this whatever thing on their resume. But if your identity dies when competition ends, you were just renting confidence.
Totally.
And that competition could be performance, it could be physique, it could be you know, whatever carrot that you're chasing. But what I'm interested is, like, how do we create buy-in around that, Pat? Because, like, you've done it with NorCal. You see it a little bit with street parking. You've done it a little bit with RPM. Like, you've been around the block a few times, as have I. And it's like, you know, you're NorCal, I'm SoCal. I see it with RX Smart Gear. I see it with, you know, people going to the yard, to F45, to, different noble workouts and all these different community-based things. I mean, run clubs have turned into like dating culture for the most part. It's not really about running anymore.
Sure. But I think all these things are okay, Bryce. I think that that's what I have to come to terms with. Like, you heard the passion in my voice and how frustrated I got, but I think that that's more my issue, not the world's. I don't think we can change anyone's mind per se, but we can provide a good example of what it looks like to live on the other side of it. And and when someone comes to us and says, "Hey, I'm looking for something different. I'm looking to actually make this meaningful." Then you go, "Okay, let me help you." It's the same thing as like, you can't force someone to do CrossFit, but you can provide an environment where they're much more likely to say yes. And you can live it. And when someone finally asks you, like, I remember in the early days where you just had to tell everyone about it. And then nowadays I'm 20 years deep. I don't need to tell anyone. But if someone comes up to me and is like, "Hey, what is this stuff?" I'll be like, "Well, what do you want to know?" And like, gauge what they're willing to hear. If their mind's closed off, I can't really do anything. It's the same thing with nutrition. I can't force someone to eat well, but I can provide an environment where they're much more likely to make better choices. It's the beauty of CrossFit gyms, if you ask me. They provide this environment where people are making better choices more often. Very hard to do on your own. So if we can get communities, and we can get leaders, and we can get people who carry social weight to speak in these terms and to value these things, I think that that's where we'll win, or not win, but that's where we'll win over people who are on the fence.
Yeah, we'll make an impact. I think you're spot on there. Bro, I got to tell you a funny story real quick.
Go ahead. Okay. Well, I just don't think we're going to do it through force. I don't think, because if I go out and I make a post and I say, "Hey, guess what, guys? Bodybuilding is masturbation. It's totally fine for you to do, but it's only self-serving, and it doesn't do anything for you in the long run, and it lacks real depth." Like, people are not going to hear that. Like, people who are into it are going to get mad, and people who are like maybe on my side are going to be like, "Ha ha ha, yeah, bodybuilding, yeah, CrossFit's the best." Like, but that doesn't serve. What does that serve? That serves me. Like, it doesn't change minds. And like, that's where I wrestle with the content that I make and the things that I do.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that perspective for sure. And the other thing that's interesting too is I feel like there's a middle ground that I feel like Mark is Philly, and
I disagree. I wholeheartedly disagree. And I hear what you're saying, but I disagree. Keep going.
I want to explore that a little bit, because I actually am a big fan of what he's doing. I think Dave Lipson's found a middle ground a little bit.
It's not a middle ground. It's a pandering. It's not a middle ground.
I'm excited to unpack this and dabble a little bit, because I used to agree. And then, honestly, like here's where I had the transformation. I was training quite a bit with Sam Dancer and Danny Spiegel while they were training for the games. And I was just kind of an additional training partner. And I remember I went to take a trip to Joshua Tree with a couple friends and get some outdoor nature time, go hike a little bit. And I was doing a lot of CrossFit at the time, a lot of intensity. I was still trying to hit numerical values that I think were ego driven, that I should have backed off of. Mystery looking forward, science looking back. But I remember being in the 3-hour drive to Joshua Tree and like, dude, my left hip was bothering me. My right knee was bothering me. And I realized the intensity was a little too much for where I was and where I was going. And then I got to Joshua Tree and like, dude, we were trying to like boulder and do all kinds of things, and like getting my knee up and like doing certain mobility things, like it was kicking my ass. And so I've since transitioned to a lot more like simple type metcons of goblet squats, dumbbell push press, devil press, a lot more of what you see from like the street parking methodology, to be honest.
No, that's CrossFit.
And that's
you were raised in Invictus, which is wrong. You were raised in competition, which is wrong. This is not CrossFit. This is an aberration of CrossFit.
And that's the point that I'm trying to make, though, because we're saying the same thing, but that's what the world sees as CrossFit because of social media.
I know. And because it's what the famous people do. And I get it. I'm not like, I get it. But when you look at Fitness in 100 Words, when you look at the first year of Greg's programming, when you look at 2001 to 2010 on CrossFit.com, which is Greg programming the whole thing, it is not what you see in 99% of gyms.
Yes. And that's the
that
point that I want to make. It's evolved into a fucking monster.
It has. And I think what's interesting though is the monster is still really effective for a human being who trains 3 days a week, you know, because if someone comes in 3 days a week, you can kind of give them anything. That's true. And they're going to get better. Yeah. And if you're giving them a bunch in a day, great. Now, ideally you fix their movement and you're smart with it and you're doing all these things. But if you're talking about people who want lifelong fitness and they want to continue to feel good for the other things they do in life, then they need to be doing less in any given day, and they need to have quite a variance, and they need to hit heavy days, you know, like heavy relative to the individual. Sure. They need to do long, slow days. And then they also need to do a variation of Metcons that are simple, just like you said, Bryce. And this is like foundational CrossFit. It's never been different. That's how believe it or not, that's how we ran NorCal. We were always blown away by like the number of people who like did all these weird programs with all of the volume. The only reason volume should be a thing is if you're competing and you need to be sport specific with it. Now, what I would say about both Dave Lipson and both Marcus Philly is what I will say is that if you are set on physique, they do a better version of physique than straight bodybuilding to me, because they are concerned with function. They are concerned with you being able to move through a full range of motion and feel good. So they're like you said, they are a bit of a hybrid where it's like, well, they are hybrid. That's what they build themselves at. What I really disagree with though is it's still catering to physique. It's still promoting the idea that physique is important and you should pursue it. So I don't think it's serving the larger world. It's just creating a space for people who understand that function is also important, you know? But I don't think it does anything other than continue to help the narrative that we really need to be looking a certain way. And I don't think that that's a valuable narrative for the majority of people who are training. Yeah.
I think it's a variable that should be considered. And here's what I want to ask your thoughts on.
Sure.
Because I agree with you. Like, it should not be everything. It should not be, you know, the thing that marinates your lenses. But muscle mass is really important. And you're spot on. Like, I got raised in the Valley CrossFits and the Invictuses where competition was really pushed. But what I see this over emphasis on in certain CrossFit gyms is everybody wants capacity and they're not really putting on muscle mass. And so that's where I like their programs around time under tension, understanding like, hey, what is the mind muscle connection? And then once that's established, now we can integrate a little bit more intensity and capacity. But oftentimes people are thrown into a Metcon, and yes, they get movement. Yes, they get their 3 days a week. They might lose a little bit of weight, but then they fade off because they start getting joint pain because they're just jazzercising and going through what they're observing from like the experts or the famous people. And they're missing the understanding of like, oh, this is what a shoulder press should look like and how we brace and how we integrate optimal contractions.
Everything you're saying should be coached every single CrossFit class. And if it's not, then it's a bad class.
R2's got it.
Coach. R2 does have it. R2 is the man. Like R2 absolutely has it. And I think that's what's heartbreaking to me is like, you've been in the space a long time and you still don't see this in the CrossFit gyms. I see this at a lot of CrossFit gyms that like when I was working for Best Hour, there were a number of gyms that I'd walk into and I'd be like, ugh. But then there was a bunch that I was like, wow, you guys are doing a really good job. Yeah. And even the ones that are not doing a great job are still doing better than 99% of the rest of the industry.
100%, 110%.
It's funny because it's like, even when I complain about CrossFit gyms, like I'm like, they're still the tip of the spear. Like you go into like, they're one of the few, like one of the very few organizations that even has standards like for anything, like let alone, you know, we're fighting amongst ourselves. But I agree with you. I think there's a number of things that go missed in a lot of gyms that to me this is what I've done since day one, like since 2001. It's the reason I've been in it for 20 years. I've never had an injury doing CrossFit. Like I've had tweaks like here and there, but nothing serious. I hurt myself doing things outside of CrossFit. I would go like, I tore my rotator cuff playing spike ball, because I was an awesome, like that's
Spike
how hard I go.
Awesome.
It's so good.
But also real quickly, like you're going to get tweaks when you're an active participant. Like
always.
And back in the day, like we didn't have a pool and it was 115 degrees in the San Fernando Valley. Like I'm jumping the fence into my neighbor's yard when they're working, scraping up my knee and cutting myself up. But it's like I'm an active participant in play in the human experience and trying to cool off. Like you should get little tweaks. You should almost be in pursuit of them. And going back to my comment around like competition, I said this to somebody the other day. I was like, why? They were like, how are you so confident in entrepreneurship? I said, because I'm faster than you. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I said, I am unafraid to make more mistakes than you will, because after losing my parents, I just don't give a fuck anymore. Like I'm going to try to pursue failure because they're data points to me. They're going to help me get closer to the right answer. And I think if people navigate with that level of curiosity, like the world is your oyster. You can literally go play. And I like this banter that we're having back and forth because it's so passionate around let's get people to move. Let's get intensity. Let's not make it all about the look. Let's make it about the feel. But Pat, the thing that's tough is the feel is hard to market.
Totally. It absolutely is. And I think that's why, like, I'm going to say this on this podcast. I'm going to have this opinion. I'm going to carry it with me. But, people who like Marcus Philly who offer a program like this, I'm like, I'm so glad it exists because it's that thing where it's like something is better than nothing, but there are other things that are better than that thing. and I'm going to help the people who are looking for who are like, I want to pursue the right things and I need a voice for that. So I need to be a voice for that. Like it's the reason I even do stuff or speak on this, but I'm still wrestling with that whole world because I don't know if I'm right. I know I'm right for myself. I know I'm right for the thousands of athletes that I've seen, but yeah, it's the fear thing around being hurt's an interesting one to me. Cause like you and I are both athletes, right? We both have athletic backgrounds and we know that like little tweaks and stuff are part of the game. And I know a lot of people who are just, they're so scared of having like a small tweak that they end up dying early. It's like, what are you doing? Dying early, having never lived.
It's like going up to bat afraid to strike out as opposed to trying to hit a home run. You're like playing not to lose.
Well, and what's the hard part is like, even what you said there is like, you're willing to, after losing both your parents, take risks and make failures happen. And those things are like, ideally you don't have to lose both your parents in order to have that mindset. Right. But for you, that was part of the mindset. Like you needed to get there. You needed to go through that experience to be like, you know what, fuck, it doesn't matter. I'm going to do this. I'm gonna just be an entrepreneur and I don't even have anything to offer, but I'm going to try. And I'm going to try again and again. And it's not about necessarily intensity. It's about the inconsistency. Like what's your consistency like? Are you showing up? And I think it's the same thing with the fitness. Like you have to be showing up first for our conversation of intensity to even be on the table. Totally. If you're not showing up, it doesn't matter. But then I go to myself, like listening to you say that, it's so much easier to say or to post about or to read about than to do.
Sure.
To actually do it is horribly unsexy.
Oh yeah.
And the idea of like, oh, I'm going to meet this failure and I'm going to have this failure again. And it's like, and it's not going to bother me because I like do it. It's like, no, dude.
No, dude. That's one of those cliche things you hear on a podcast, but it's brutal. I mean, the imposter syndrome that sneaks in, the amount of rejection that you face, the amount that, you have to navigate, as Chris Williamson would say, the lonely chapter, where it's like, hey, I'm leaving this highly sexy, really competitive environment in pursuit of this dream over here. And it's like, I don't really fit with these guys yet. And I don't really align with this value system anymore. It's just Bryce playing in the sandbox by himself and trying to throw invites to anybody that wants to play.
And you're like, I'm going to do it. And you're like, prove it. And then every day when stuff is not working out, you're like, well, I'm trying and I'm going to try again and I'm going to try again. And it's like, it's a horrifying place. I wish we would have got on a Chris Williamson earlier. It would have been a fascinating conversation. I have a lot of strong opinions about famous men who are doing the work, but are not married with kids. It really blows my mind how they can perceive to have an opinion.
I'm actually really excited to unpack that with you. We got to have you on ASAP. I know you got to run to a meeting here, but real quickly, man, the Father's Guild, what you're doing is so awesome. Just being a support system, having those strong opinions, being able to, especially in this politically volatile world, man, like I feel like you and I can argue and banter in a really fun, healthy way, in the sense of like, we're not trying to pick a side. I believe it to be policy over politics. And I think what you're doing to share with men is so rad, dude. Like, you're talking about children, you're talking about identity, you're talking about movement, action, all the things. Can you unpack that a little bit for our audience and help us understand where to find more information?
Sure. Yeah, you can just find more information at thefathersguild.com or the Fathers Guild on any of YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I only post on Instagram, but I have a VA team that sends it everywhere else.
Totally.
I love being a dad, and like I've said on this podcast, I feel good about my time as a father and the things that I'm doing. And I see so many men who really struggle with it. And I created an account just talking about my thoughts on fatherhood, because I find it's not that it's easy, but it's so easy to see the rewards of what I do, because I have good kids. And I say good because not good like they're disciplined, good because they experience life and find joy in every little thing that they do, and can be bored and can, travel with us and be awesome. And they clean the house when like they think of other people, they hold each other, they like express love, they like do all these things that are foundational to being humans. Like they're digging a bunker out back that's going to be 10 feet by 14 feet. And it's going to be like 8 feet deep. And they're halfway through because they saw this YouTube video that was like, let's do it. So now they've been spending days doing it. And so like, I have all these thoughts on fatherhood and parenting and being in a relationship, because I've navigated so much turmoil, but my mind is about the process. Like, okay, why did this work? Like, that's where my brain goes. It's what I've done as a coach, and it's what I hope to do as a father. And I started putting those things out there, and it started resonating with people, and the account just kind of like blew up. Nice. And it's sometimes I feel like I'm throwing thoughts into the void, and they just go out and just, like, doesn't go anywhere. But like a lot of the times people will reach back out to me and be like, hey, this really helped me in my relationship to my kid. Like, I went and tried this, and all of a sudden, like, I'm doing better. Like I'm closer. I'm like, and like, thank you. And that's why I started it. And now it's at this place where I'm like, well, maybe this could be a profession for me. Maybe I could, like, I have fatherhood retreats that they come up and they camp on my property. We unattach. I've got these men's groups. I'm doing this thing called the Hero's Journey, which is a 30-day challenge where we're adding stuff and removing stuff to our lives. I've got a lot of ideas in it, but they're still in infancy, and that's it, man.
Dude, you're still my favorite CrossFitter. I love like who you're becoming. I love the banter. I think like the way you think is really cool. I'm going to have Luke reach out, dude. We got to continue this conversation. Yeah, I really want to explore more on ideologies of fitness and fatherhood. Get to know more of what you've got going on the coaching development side. Your perspectives on high performing men that aren't married, that don't have kids, and kind of your thoughts there. Like, I think there's so many cool topics that we can juggle. And so we'll definitely get you scheduled in the next couple of weeks again, man. This was super fun. Thanks for your time and your energy, dude. Of course, brother. I appreciate it. And I always enjoy the conversations. They go oddly deep, and I'm like, oh, I like this. This is good. So I'll be gone again soon. Cool. Appreciate you, man. Guys, if you enjoyed my conversation with Pat Barber, please give him a shout out. Check him out on Instagram. Check out the Fathers Guild. Check out all the things he's got going on. And as always, stay on the hunt for who you've not yet become. Till next time. Thanks, Pat. Like it. Later, man.